In 1949, a volcanic eruption occurred near the Spanish island of La Palma, causing a series of earthquakes. As a result, a large fissure formed along the volcano's summit. The entire area shifted toward the ocean, and since then, locals have believed that another disaster is inevitable. In the present day, a group of tourists is enjoying a boat trip while admiring the beautiful scenery. A woman jumps into the water for a swim, but her friend becomes worried when she can't find her again. Moments later, bubbles begin rising around the boat. They then spot her body floating beneath the vessel, and they notice steam everywhere, as if the water has suddenly started boiling. The bottom of the boat suddenly breaks apart, and extremely hot water rushes in, killing all the passengers. At the same time, a Norwegian family arrives on the island to spend their annual Christmas vacation. They have been visiting the same hotel for 7 years and have become friendly with the staff. That year, they are surprised to find they have been upgraded to a very luxurious room instead of their usual one. While exploring the room, Sarah finds a missing earring that belonged to a tourist who later died. We then move to the Geology Institute in La Palma, where scientists are monitoring volcanic activity on the island. They are also concerned about the boat incident and what it might indicate. Marie notices that the transmitter sending data to her computer is not working, so she and Hawker head up the mountain to investigate. When they arrive, they leave their car behind and continue on foot until they find the transmitter near the entrance of a cave. The device appears intact, but there is equipment inside the cave as well, so they go in to explore further. Marie is shocked to find running water inside the cave, something that wasn't there before. After taking a sample, they continue investigating and discover dozens of dead bats on the ground. Hawker uses an air monitor and detects a high concentration of carbon dioxide and sulfur gas inside the cave. They also find the second part of the transmitter, which has been destroyed. A large crack has opened in the cave ceiling, causing rock debris to collapse and damage the equipment. They return to the institute and report everything to their director, Alvaro, but he becomes angry and dismisses their theory that this could be evidence of an upcoming volcanic eruption. He demands real proof before alerting the public. Alvaro is very cautious because 3 years earlier, he prematurely announced a volcanic eruption that caused panic and evacuation, but the eruption never actually happened. Meanwhile, Marie watches a video showing the potential scale of a tsunami in the region, which deeply frightens her. When she returns home, her brother Eric tells her about his upcoming diving project. He mentions that turtles have been gathering in La Palma, which is unusual since they normally don't travel in groups. The next day, the family has lunch together. Tobias, the son, has a neurological disorder, and when his meal does not match the picture on the menu, he has a violent outburst. His parents are forced to calm him down. During this, Sarah notices a man named Charlie at another table, and they exchange interested glances. Later, when Sarah is alone by the pool, Charlie invites her out that evening, but she refuses because she needs to take care of her brother and her father, Frederick. Frederick notices this and tells her she should go, saying he will look after Tobias. After she leaves, he becomes suspicious when he sees his wife Jennifer talking to the hotel employee who upgraded their room, and she appears to be attracted to him. Soon after, Tobias disappears. Frederick rushes to get Sarah, interrupting her meeting with Charlie before she can even greet him. They begin searching the beach and eventually find Tobias on a hill, watching turtles in the ocean. Meanwhile, Eric goes down to study them. Back at the hotel, the employee arrives to update them about their rental car, while Frederick and Jennifer get into a heated argument. The children overhear them from the next room. At the institute, Alvaro meets a doctor friend at the morgue to ask about the results from the boat incident. The images confirm that the victim's skin was severely burned by extremely hot gases, and they inhaled lethal levels of carbon dioxide and sulfur. The doctor suggests this could indicate the presence of lava, but Alvaro pretends not to understand. Back at the institute, Marie and Hawker review the analysis of the cave water. The water is low in minerals, meaning it traveled a short distance from the surface into the underground tunnels. Marie suggests that the fissure may extend all the way to the mountain peak. Hawker examines topographic images and discovers that the crack matches the exact location of a fissure formed during the 1949 eruption. They decide to head back to the mountain. After they walked a bit further, they were shocked to confirm that the fissure had indeed reached the mountain peak. They used special equipment and began taking measurements. At the hotel, Frederick noticed slight tremors on the balcony. At the institute, Alvaro and his team received an alert on the screen warning them about gas emissions on the hillside and a possible earthquake. After Alvaro told his team to notify the civil guard, he received a call from Marie informing him about her discovery. At that moment, gas suddenly began erupting from the ground around them, so both of them started running. On their way back, they saw a group of campers. Marie stopped to warn them and told them to run as well. She instructed them to wet tissues with water and cover their faces while escaping. The gas made visibility extremely difficult. Marie accidentally got separated from the rest of the group. Suddenly, she tripped and fell to the ground, losing consciousness. After some time, she dreamed she was drowning, and when she woke up, she found herself in a hospital. Alvaro told her that Hawker had inhaled a large amount of gas and was now in a coma due to a severe allergic reaction, and that none of the campers had survived. They began arguing because Alvaro still refused to issue an official warning, insisting that another mistake would destroy public trust completely. Marie told him about the time she experienced a tsunami and lost her family, a tragedy that could have been prevented if warnings had been issued in time. She then called her brother Eric and told him to stay away from the sea immediately. At the hotel, Sarah finally went to talk to Charlie, but she became upset when she saw him with someone else and assumed he was with another girl. At the same time, Frederick and Jennifer were considering a trip to the mountain, but someone told them the area had been closed due to incidents and deaths, mentioning Tobias's accident without Jennifer knowing the details. When they returned to their room, another argument broke out, and the children overheard them again. Frederick criticized Jennifer for being absent too often lately, and said he felt closer to Sarah than she did, even though Sarah was her adopted daughter. Jennifer became upset, hid in the bathroom, and Sarah left crying. Sarah went to the city and called her uncle Jens, who works at the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, asking him for money for a flight home. Jens tried to convince her it was not a good idea, but she hung up. He then tried calling Jennifer, but her phone was on silent because she was meditating. Eventually, Sarah managed to board a plane to Madrid and was surprised when she later received a message from Charlie. Meanwhile, at the institute, Marie and Hawker presented their findings to the mayor, who was worried it might be another false alarm. However, they insisted and convinced her to arrange a meeting with the government. Marie then tried to convince Eric to return home and warned him about the tsunami, but he believed she just wanted to get rid of him and left angry. At the institute, scientists noticed an increase in seismic activity across the island, and Alvaro believed it indicated magma rising toward the surface. There were 3 stages suggesting a possible eruption: gas emissions, then ash, and finally lava. Data showed that the fissure was still widening, and within minutes the situation escalated rapidly. Alvaro ordered his team to alert all airports immediately. Suddenly, the volcano erupted, sending a massive ash cloud into the sky so large that it could be seen from the hotel. The staff tried to reassure tourists that it was just ash. Unfortunately, the plane carrying Sarah received the warning too late and flew into the ash cloud, causing its engines to catch fire. At the hotel, Frederick and Jennifer received a call from Jens about Sarah's plan. The couple assumed all flights had been cancelled, but at that moment they saw Sarah's plane crashing, and the news spread quickly. They rushed to the local hospital, but paramedics were already transferring survivors, and they could not find Sarah anywhere. Jennifer began panicking and shouting at the nurses, so Frederick had to take her away. Meanwhile, the mayor arranged a meeting between Alvaro, his team, and the government, which was skeptical that ash alone could lead to a real eruption. After a long discussion, they agreed to begin preparations. Alvaro then told his team to go home to their families while he stayed to monitor the situation. Marie hugged him warmly before leaving. When Marie returned home, she could not find Eric, and he did not answer his phone. Later, An officer brought a passenger list to Jennifer and Frederick, explaining that Sarah was missing along with everyone who had been in the front section of the plane, which had exploded. The couple returned to the hotel waiting for news, but they were shocked to find Sarah sitting in their room, waiting for them with Tobias. After spending some time with her family, Sarah went to the pool where she met Charlie again, and she told him that his message was what made her get off the plane. At midnight, Marie received a call from Eric and went to a bar to meet him. There, she saw the police arresting someone and ran in to help, thinking it was her brother. In the struggle, she accidentally hit an officer and was also arrested. Before the police car left, she saw Eric in the bar and told him to leave the island. In the morning, Eric visited Marie in prison. After seeing her condition and hearing her story, he believed her and felt guilty for delaying her escape, so he decided to stay and help her escape together. At the same time, Jens received a call from his supervisor ordering all employees back to the office. The team was reviewing a simulation of a natural disaster capable of destroying the Canary Islands within days or even hours. The situation was classified as secret, and evacuation planning had to begin immediately. After that, the whole family enjoyed a happy moment together in the swimming pool, but that joyful scene was interrupted by a call from Jens, who informed Jennifer about the tsunami. He explained that La Palma was no longer the priority, and that the large ferries had been redirected to the bigger islands. Only a small ferry was left, scheduled to depart within 20 minutes, so the family had to hurry immediately. Everyone rushed to pack only the essentials. Sarah tried to warn Charlie, but she couldn't find him in the room, and there was no time left. When they couldn't find a taxi, Frederick stole a van and drove at full speed through the streets, weaving through traffic until they reached the harbor. However, the van's owners chased them, caught Frederick, and started beating him, while the rest of the family ran and managed to board the ferry. They tried to convince the captain not to sail yet. Frederick paid the men and managed to escape, then ran desperately to catch up with his family. But it was too late. The ferry had already left. Meanwhile, Sarah called Charlie and told him to leave the island, but the signal cut out before she could explain everything. At the institute, Alvaro's computers lost the signal from the transmitters, so he immediately contacted the government and warned them that the tsunami would arrive within an hour. Emergency evacuation alerts began sounding across the island, and panic quickly spread among the population. In the hospital, staff carefully handled the transport of the plane crash survivors, while Hawker woke up from his coma, unable to believe what was happening around him. At the same time, everyone was trying to secure a place on the last available boats. Frederick managed to board one with the help of a hotel friend. At that moment, the volcano finally erupted, releasing massive amounts of lava. At the police station, Eric was shouting at an officer because they refused to release his sister, but the officer insisted on waiting for official orders before allowing the last boat to depart. Frederick noticed an elderly woman with a baby and decided to give up his seat for them, leaving him stranded on the island as well. At the institute, Hawker surprised Alvaro by refusing to leave, and the two decided to spend their final day together on one last field mission. Meanwhile, media outlets around the world covered the disaster, showing footage of volcanic lava and the growing tsunami, along with evacuation efforts. Sarah called her Uncle Jens to tell him what had happened. He asked his supervisor for help, but Sarah became angry because classified information had been exposed. At the same time, a wave researcher offered to help identify safe zones for stranded people, but the director rejected him. Jens secretly gave him an office to work from. Across the island, people continued running in panic. One person tried to call their family but managed only a few final words of love before the signal was lost. At the police station, officers fled in fear, so Eric took the keys and freed Marie and another prisoner. As they were leaving, they froze when they saw another explosion above the volcano. Frederick told them there were no boats left, but Eric revealed he still had his diving boat. They all ran to the beach and found it still there. As they were about to leave, the second prisoner appeared and threatened them with a gun. Eric tried to convince him to join them, but he refused, and a fight broke out. During the struggle, the gun went off accidentally and Eric was shot. Marie rushed to him, but he died in her arms. In a rage, Frederick grabbed the attacker, threw him into the water, then struck him with a rock and held him underwater until he died. After that, Frederick and Marie managed to sail away, though they pushed away others who tried to join them. Meanwhile, in Norway, Jens learned from a wave expert that the only safe place from the tsunami was a small bay near La Palma, though survival chances were still uncertain. He informed his supervisor, but they considered it insufficient for an official announcement. On the mountain, Hawker and Alvaro put on protective suits and approached the volcano to observe lava flowing from the fissure. At the airport, Jennifer and the children were preparing to board, but Sarah saw Charlie outside the plane and decided to get off and give him her bracelet so he could take her place. At the same time, Frederick and Marie reached Tenerife, but the mountain began to collapse, generating massive waves that triggered the tsunami. Hawker and Alvaro died during the operation, and the shockwave reached the airport, shaking the aircraft and causing panic. Jennifer grew worried about Sarah and left the plane to look for her, not knowing that Sarah had already boarded another flight. The tsunami began approaching Tenerife, while in Norway a press conference was cancelled after a sudden landslide. Jens used the press moment to reveal the truth and announce the coordinates of the safe zone before being dragged away by security. Shortly after, Frederick received the coordinates, and he and Marie returned to the boat to try to reach safety. At the airport, passengers on the last two flights watched in horror as the massive wave grew. Sarah called her mother to say she was on the plane. Jennifer sent the coordinates, but they couldn't be read, and the connection was lost. Luckily, Tobias, who loved maps, found the location easily and guided a small group of survivors with a final airport worker to a van that could transport them. During the journey, Tobias saw the enormous tsunami wave and became terrified, but Jennifer tried to calm him. At sea, Frederick and Marie struggled to control the boat as the waves grew stronger, losing communication due to network failure. Two massive waves appeared behind them, and they barely managed to avoid them at the last moment. Then the tsunami hit the airport, the ground began to break apart, and the plane was destroyed and flooded. Jennifer and her group were forced to abandon the van and run toward the mountains. At the safe zone, Frederick and Marie arrived and found survivors hiding there. When the airport group arrived, Frederick was reunited with his family, but realized someone was missing. On the plane, Sarah woke up in shock, realizing she was still alive, while Charlie was unconscious. Sarah revived her with CPR until she regained consciousness, and together they left the plane and saw the airport completely destroyed. Later, the media covered the disaster, showing the destruction across the islands and parts of West Africa and southern Europe, with hundreds of buildings collapsed and thousands of casualties. The United States sent helicopters to search for survivors. In Norway, Jens was fired from his job because of what he did and stayed at home waiting for news about his family. Later, a former colleague told him that survivors had reached the safe zone, including Jennifer and hundreds of people who had survived thanks to his quick thinking. The government set up a relief camp on the island, where survivors were gathered, and helicopters continued rescuing people. In the end, Sarah was finally reunited with her family. After that, Marie went swimming with the turtles, remembering her brother and realizing that humanity must listen to the power of nature. And that concludes Season 1 of La Palma. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel.